Well, kia ora, friends. I have to put the aircrete project aside for a while. Had some things come up, need to simplify, need to clean out some space. Um, I give a couple of closing thoughts on aircrete. Hopefully, I'll get back to it at some stage, but for the moment, I will put it aside. Probably the biggest thing I want to observe is that it's surprisingly challenging to keep the consistency good. Um, I think maybe if you're very good, you're very rigorous about measuring, um, and you have you write down a clear methodology. Maybe it comes out perfectly every time, but for me, it's been pretty inconsistent. I think one of the big variables is that the foaming agents themselves. Um, you probably either have to be consistently measuring them carefully. That's important. You have to mix them carefully. I think one of the problems I had is that I was using the foaming agent, and I kind of got out of the habit of shaking it before measuring it out. That might have caused some of the problems. Temperature. It was stored outside in a shed, and here in Arizona it gets kind of warm. That might have affected it. It still seems to work just fine, but I have consistency issues where sometimes that it just doesn't hold up and keep form until the cement hardens. Um, Other comments are that making a mold is not a trivial thing. You need to put a lot of effort into making a very high quality mold. It needs to be strong. Aircrete is light, relatively speaking, but it still has some weight. So when you get a little bit of depth, 6-8 inches, the amount of pressure at the bottom is fairly high, and that pressure will push out anything that you don't have rigid and strong. As far as working with it goes, the method that is outlined on the Dome Gaia site, where you take and use the latex cement bonding agent, that works really well. What I did find is that when you're putting blocks together, I was experimenting with 3-inch blocks on top of each other. My molds were not really good enough, actually, and the edges then were not perfectly straight and flat. And so when you'd sit things up, you had to fiddle with it a little bit to get everything aligned. But if you did paint the two surfaces coming together, you painted them with the latex bonding agent, and then you put the cement on there, you got a good bond. However, it wouldn't take much to knock that loose, and now it doesn't come out well. What you can do is you take a piece of the polypropylene, whatever it is, poly something mesh. You take pieces of that, you put it on the sides, and then you cover that with the bonding agent. I mean the mortar, and now you end up with something that's very strong and you can work with, even with only a 3-inch wide wall. So overall, it's been a really interesting experiment. I'm very glad I did it. It took a lot more time than I would have anticipated, and would say that the results so far are kind of mixed. I think if you could go down to your local hardware building supplies and buy pre-made aircrete blocks, it would be a fantastic material and would be using it for all sorts of stuff. But when you have to make it yourself, it takes a fair amount of time. If you make large batches, you're gonna need either some good, like a good mixer that you can that has a lever that you can tip. But that's 100+ pounds of material that you have to move around, so it takes some muscle or time. I mean, if you use a bucket to pull it out of there, now you're taking time. So lots of room for optimization. I think if you follow the Dome Gaia, if you follow their methodology closely, that you'll probably be okay. If you go off on your own, like I did, I'm trying to make relatively small structures. I don't need them to be lasting forever. The idea was to make semi-permanent structures for dehydrator, storage, things like that. Be prepared to do some experimentation. So thanks for watching. My channel will probably switch to other things as I move on to other projects. Um, like I said, I might come back to aircrete. I still find it to be a fascinating material, but for the moment I need to move on. If you're in the Phoenix area, I'm going to put all my bits and pieces together and sell them to free up some space for other projects. If you're interested in taking my foamer and the other bits and pieces I put together, drop a message in the comments, and I'll respond and sell it to you for relatively token amount. Let me know what you're willing to pay, I guess. It's you've seen the pictures of the foamer, some of the mixing paddles. What else? There's a little scale thing that I built, so you put a certain amount of water on one side and then you'll measure out the correct amount of cement on the other side. Makes it really easy to, I want a 5-gallon batch or an 8-gallon batch or a 2.5-gallon batch. Which is something that you do a lot when you're experimenting, is make a range of different size batches. I think that's all I got to say at this time. Thanks for watching, and hope to see anybody who's interested in what I'm doing. I'll be posting videos, hopefully on something new and different. Probably take a month or two while I get through one project before I start up another one. All right, thank you.